Do you think Frank Lampard is going to get sacked? I don't. I don't think so.
I don't know. It seems that in the league in general, there's only been one sacking this year, isn't there? Which by this point there's normally been like 3 or 4. So so on that side of it, I think because of costs with COVID and that, then maybe not.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week where the clubs wanted to. It's like you're gambling at you're playing Texas Hold'em, you're gambling, you're putting your chips in, and normally you cash them in at this point, but because it's not a normal year, clubs are unwilling to cash in those chips or make those gambles and pay off. Because we've been talking about Chris Wilder potentially being sacked as Sheffield United manager, and it just feels that that's not going to happen. There are plenty of, and I was surprised that West Brom got rid of Village, but that happened. But
I think that's because they felt that they had a shout of staying up, so they went and got a specialist for it.
I still don't think Allardyce will keep up West Brom, and you know what? At the end of it, he can retire, and he can just say to all the West Brom supporters, well, you shouldn't have bought in a Wolves fan to keep you in the Premier League. There you go.
I definitely think he's the type to, as soon as he realises that he can't turn it around, he'll leave.
Quit. Yeah, he'll quit.
Because he doesn't want a relegation on his CV.
That is true.
I think he's too arrogant and his ego is too big for him to let that happen.
Get the Gregs in. The greatest England manager of all time. 100% track record. He only needed 1 win. That was enough for him.
It's enough. That's it. Mount.
Greatest manager ever.
Wings. I mean, with Lampard. Sorry, back to Lampard. It's difficult. Yes, there's the money side of it, obviously with Corona and that, but also hiring a club legend is great. The morale around the fan base and everything is brilliant. But then when it comes to, and it's the same with Zidane, it's when it comes to then sacking a club legend, like there's an element of the fans are going to give him a bit more grace because of his status within the club, and if the club then treat him like they would any other manager, which why shouldn't they really? That could then cause a bit of a backlash for him and that. But I don't know. I wonder if they signed a lot of players. Was it too much change? As with such a strange season as it is, are players taking longer to bed in? I'm still just saying that like Pepe hasn't bedded in for Arsenal just because of COVID, even though he signed about 4 or 5 months before it kicked off. So that's my excuse for him. But maybe that's having an impact on some of these lads and that, and they're just not. They weren't Prem ready, maybe.
And I think Chelsea would have
a season with all the youngsters last year, didn't they? And the fact
that's what I was going to say, because I thought Chelsea needed another season with a transfer ban.
Yeah, because that was brilliant for them. Those players that came through did fantastic, and like I said, like Fakor and Tomori was did great last season, but then he's kind of just disappeared and now going out on loan. So I feel kind of a bit bad for him. And yeah, I wonder if maybe just bringing in those other players has kind of just upset the apple cart a bit. And you could argue as well that Lampard's previous experience, although it's fairly brief, was with young British players, and that's what he knows. And maybe he doesn't know how to handle and look after these lads that are coming from Germany and the likes, and maybe doesn't relate to them in the same way and can't get those same performances out of them.
Maybe.
And again, but they're also young lads as well. Maybe they're homesick.
Yeah.
You just don't know. There's so many different things that could be impacting it.
It's a weird season, so there are different factors. Let's just have a look at some of the runners and riders in the odds to be the next Chelsea manager, should Mr. Abramovich just decide to watch this stream. And in the off, just a small off chance that he does, Thomas Tuchel is 2-1. He's the favourite at the moment. Bet Victor 2-1, 4-9 with Paddy Power, 8-11 with William Hill. Obviously, we were chatting about Poch and PSG. Tuchel was sacked by PSG. I think that is like the phrase that was used when Brian Clough went to manage Leeds, a match made in hell. I think Tuchel managing Chelsea is a match made in hell.
Yeah.
Because you've got a manager that we were just talking about, clearly has arrogance issues, and clearly doesn't relate to players or get on with players or get on with the hierarchy of the club, with a board and an owner that just, if they had a game, the conveyor belt game on The Price is Right, it's just different managers for Roman Abramovich. So you've got an owner that likes to sack managers left, right and centre. Okay, they're not as bad as Watford, but he just wouldn't last.
I wonder if, and I understand why Watford kind of act the way they do with their managers, because it's, I don't know if you know about, but in Italy, when you basically can't get rid of a coach during the season, so what they do is they put them on gardening leave and bring someone else in, so they effectively have two managers on the books. What happens quite regularly is if that manager then doesn't work out, because it then would be really expensive to have three managers on the books, they're already paying another manager, so the old manager comes back in quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe these COVID times might cause that to happen. So you could get a scenario where they get somebody else in. Maybe they do get Tuchel in, and it all just explodes. And then they go, "Do you know what, Frank? It was lovely when you were here. It was all calm. Come back. Let's."
Yeah.
And then they get that little lift they need and slide into fourth. Maybe, I don't know.
Next up, and this is a weird one. I saw he was the favourite during the week on Sky Sports News. I have no idea why. Chelsea flop Andrei Shevchenko 4-1, Bet Victor 5-1, Paddy Power 4-1, William Hill.
Isn't he currently the Ukraine manager, the national team manager? Yes,
he is the national team manager of Ukraine, where he has spent 4 years in charge.
And they're still just kind of the same as they always have been, really.
They're still just Ukraine,
so,
just without Andrei. Yeah. Instead of Andrei Shevchenko up front scoring all the goals, he's now shouting at players not scoring goals.
Why can't you score goals?
Why can't you score goals like me?
Yeah, but not when I was at Chelsea.
Yeah, just copy me at AC Milan.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think if AC Milan had brought Shevchenko in, you go, oh, okay, because he is a club legend. There. But yeah, he goes into Chelsea and everyone go, oh God, it's you again.
Yeah, it's like, it's like a bad smell.
Yeah. We hated you last time. Get lost.
Yeah, you couldn't score last time. Can you get lost? Massimiliano, I can't even say his full name. Massimiliano Allegri. 4-1, 4-1 with Bet Victor, 15-2 Paddy Power, 7-1 William Hill. Previous team was Juve, left in May of 2019. Obviously, Pirlo currently not doing particularly well at Juventus. No. He's another one that looks like he might be given the axe incredibly soon. But let's talk about Allegri. No, I'm going to say on that one.
He's been learning English, hasn't he, for a while now.
I weirdly saw him becoming Arsenal manager for some reason.
Yeah, I think, but he's sort of similar to Conte, isn't he? In the style and everything. When he took over from him at Juve and kind of just built on the great success that they were having, but still sort of same sort of Champions League win eluded them both, didn't it? But and obviously he got to the final twice, I think.
Yeah.
Or semis. So yeah, he's got a great pedigree in that. But I don't. Like I said, he's a little bit more defensive minded. So I don't know how well that one would sit with the Chelsea fans. But there's no doubt that he's a great manager. Dan, on your list, if they got the Chelsea women's manager Emma Hayes, is she on there this time?
I'm having a look. No, there are some terrible names on here, but that I will tell you about because I love doing the comedy ones. But no, she's not on here. She
was kind of like mentioned, I think before Lampard got the job, and there was a bit of an uproar about that. But by all accounts, she's really highly regarded at the club and stuff. So I mean, I'd love that. That'd be great. Just really like one that would be completely out of left field.
Yeah, that would be because she's still Chelsea women's manager. So I mean, it's only a step across the. She doesn't have to. She just means she'll get a better parking space at the ground. Maybe a slight pay increase. Maybe just a slight. I'd like to think.
It'd be interesting to see that though. female manager got a top Premier League job.
What do you make of this one? This one is up there, but a comedy one at the same time. Stop your searches. Your next manager is found because he's just left a club in China. Rafa Benitez, 6-1 with BetVictor, 9-1 Paddy Power. The greatest Chelsea manager of all time. Sorry, the greatest interim Chelsea manager of all time.
Facts.
Fact.
He's got the pedigree, but the fans just don't like him. They just don't like him because of some of the things he said in his Liverpool days. So
did with the Europa League or UEFA Cup as it was with them. So was it UEFA Cup when he won it? Europa League.
It was the Europa League.
Yeah,
Europa League when he won it with them. Do you know, I don't know if this is on your list as well, but I did hear something about them bringing old Uncle Avram back to be.
Yeah, he's on my list. 20-1 with BetVictor, 16-1.
But not bringing him back as the manager though. It's bringing him back as like a consigliere to Lampard, just someone to give him a bit of support.
Why? Why would you want the guy that's been relegated with Portsmouth and West Ham?
Yeah,
why?
But to be fair to Avram Grant, the reason why he got relegated at Portsmouth was not because of anything he was doing at the pitch with the team, because he was never with them. He was at the local massage parlours. In his contract.
The weirdest thing in regards to Avram Grant, I think it was like 5 years ago, he's being linked with the Northern Ireland job, and I'm like, where the fuck has that come from?
But you get that in international football. Sometimes they just go, well, what about this person? Like Sven when he took over Ivory Coast.
Yeah, that was quite funny. It's like
this guy was a name once. Let's get him.
Let's 8-1 Julian Nagelsmann, current Leipzig manager. Then it's Ralf Rangnick, who's the former Leipzig manager, who is Nagelsmann's predecessor. I like Nagelsmann, but I think he should stay at Leipzig. I think he's got a lot more to achieve.
He'd be like the hipster's choice, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, they were a bit of a hipstery club.
I mean, I think he's flashy enough to be there, isn't he? Those outfits he wears.
I think, yes.
The loafers and all that sort of jazz and that. I think it'd be good to see him strutting up and down the line at Premiership grounds.
I mean, his style would suit where they're based. So,
absolutely,
if he's just walking casually around, like to the nearest, sorry, not Co-op, Waitrose or something. If he's shopping at Waitrose, then he'll look trendy.
He's constantly being snapped out with Jamie Lang and the rest of the cast of Made in Chelsea.
Jesus Christ. Let's get back to something sensible.
I'd like to see that.
I think even I might begrudgingly tune in for that. And final two really. Brendan Rodgers 10-1.
He'd go there.
He'd just go there for the money. And I know he's an ex-Chelsea guy, but
he's an ambitious guy, and
perhaps overly.
For him to take over at Chelsea, it means he'd have the resources that he would need. I think the thing with Leicester is don't get me wrong, they're having a fantastic season, and they're definitely going to be every few if they carry on how they're going, it'll be that every few seasons they'll have a little bit of a push and stuff, but then they'll always be kind of finishing sort of
fifth to
eighth. I think would be their kind of sign.
I think if I was Rodgers with Leicester, I would stay until Vardy retires or leaves. That's when I would go, because that's their real problem. Because as soon as Vardy goes, I mean, they need somebody to replace him, and that's going to be a tough